You can't have your excuses and have the life you want. You've got to sacrifice for a little bit. And it's not forever. It's not a prison sentence for 10 years. You're not getting locked up for 20 years and you're not going to see your family. This is you just becoming the best version of your hardworking self and building a skill set that now allows you to teach others and put them in a position where they can change their lives too, which is what you've done. You guys have both sold at a high level. We don't need to go through a full script, but what are some like initial maybe sales thoughts or sales tips or setup or like some Ryan Morganisms that like you kind of always make sure that when you're coaching a new agent there, if you see them struggling, you go kind of like, let's tweak this. Like it's kind of the first, second, third places you start from a selling standpoint, kind of get some a little bit some sales insight here.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot.
There's so
usually usually when I see people struggling though, like we have tools in place that are there to help people make sales, right? Like there's sales scripts, we have objections and rebuttal sheets, things like that. And when I see people struggling, it's just because they're not using them properly, right? Like I'll literally train somebody on here's the, objections, here's the rebuttals, right? And then I just don't hear them using them, right? So the best advice I can give somebody starting out, like you don't have to know everything. You can literally just, and the nice thing is we're on the phones. These people can't see you. So you can cheat, you can have your script right in front of you. You can have your objections and rebuttals right in front of you. You should have it printed out, sitting literally in front of your face. And that way, as soon as, a client objects, boom, you've got it right there and you can fire it off. You want to practice those every single day until you're just super, super sharp. And then at that point, you take that and you just apply it to your fresh leads every single week. You do the work and you're going to make sales. Like you're going to find people in there who want to buy insurance and who see the value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing too is there's always a way to like get to the right answer with the wrong work, right? Like when we were all in math class and your teacher is like, why are you working this wrong? I got the right answer, but it's because your work was all over the place, right? So it was a happy accident. Same thing when it comes to sales, right? There might be some things that you say, one or two times that might work for you in that moment, but aren't really ever going to work for you again. Or you might be not realizing that you're not maybe delivering things in certain way, or you just might not know where you're going wrong. And that's what I see oftentimes with people, for example, not even just in making their first sale, but they've made a couple of sales, but am I really putting the kind of profit up that I want to? Right. And it becomes difficult for them to identify exactly where their issues are. One, because they're not leveraging their leaders, but also two, they don't know what their problem is because they're not tracking their KPIs. And all that means is a key performance indicator. And for insurance, when you're looking at an insurance presentation virtually, it usually boils down to 5 things, right? Leads purchased. And I have a tracker I could share. But it would be like leads purchased, dials made, and most people stop there, right? Like, okay, cool. I'm tracking my activity. Perfect. But we got to take it a step further because I can track my activity, but if I'm not getting the results, how am I supposed to determine what's preventing me from getting the results, right? Is it contact rate? Is it presentations? And I'll get into that. So the next thing that you need to track is how many presentations am I getting into, right? How many times am I pitching numbers? So the next one that you're going to want to track is, okay, how many applications am I getting into? And again, most people would stop there, but you want to take it one step further and how many people am I actually closing? What that'll tell you, right, is let's say I'm getting into 5 presentations out of my leads. I'm going through and I'm getting into, let's say 3 out of 5 applications. That's a pretty good close ratio. But let's say I'm only actually closing 1 of those 3. Well, when I look at that, what that probably means is I need to brush up on my e-app objections, social, banking, or maybe I see I only gone into 2 presentations out of 500 dials. I probably need to work on my intro and my rebuttals in my intro. But if you don't have any of those statistics, you don't really have any really guidance as to what you need to really work on. What trainings do I need to watch? What do I need to practice? So you need to have an understanding of where your strengths and your weaknesses are to get better.
I think too, like just having that is super important when you're starting out, because then it's like, you can take, if you don't really know how to improve there, you can take those to your upline and your upline can look at that and say, okay, clearly this is where we're going wrong. So let's focus on this, right? Like if it's the intro, if you're not getting into presentations, obviously that's an issue with your intro. So we can dissect that and then help you in that area.
Yeah. But if I just go to Grady, I'm like, hey, Grady, I'm not selling. And you're like, okay, how many leads are you buying? I'm like, I'm buying $2,000 a week in leads. you're gonna be like, beats me, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's where, you have to give yourself the opportunity to like understand what your issues are so that you can correct them. So I would say track your metrics, because if you go to any talented salesperson, goes TG or whoever, and you give them those 5 metrics, they'd be like, dude, you got to work on your intro. Like, what do you mean? And then you can go through that with them, right? Because a lot of people are trying to increase their close ratio when it's not going to help them as much as just if I can talk to twice as many people. So I would say that's my biggest advice for people.
So good. Such a good, such a real breakdown, instead of you're not buying enough leads or just dial more, right? I mean, inside with the objections on the screen, script, all that stuff, but actually have that leads purchased, dials made, presentations made, applications started, and closings, and then figure out where your holes are, right? And that's really such a powerful way to like be able to actually analyze your business and treat this like a business. Old classic business opportunity adages are: treat it like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. Treat it like a business, it'll pay you like a business, right? As Jim Rohn would say, there are no new antiques. There are no new secrets to business. They're all just old ones that people just maybe use a thesaurus and say it differently. I love it. So we've got new agents. Say we got a handful of new agents. What are you starting them with, from a lead mix to a product goal? Are you changing? Are you pretty confident in the way you start new agents? What are you thinking from a product lead mix?
So to be like totally honest, so we put people on the ILC leads to start them out.
It's funny because I never used to believe people when they said this, and now I'm like,
it's the best thing though, because they're gonna get beat up on those, like they're age leads. So a lot of those people have already bought insurance, or maybe it's just been long enough to where they're like, they don't remember filling it out. Like, you're gonna run into a lot more objections. And so we like to actually start people on those so they get beat up a little bit, and they get really
particular
bronze
or silver.
Silver.
I mean, I've been doing a lot more.
Basically,
they just get a boatload of them. I mean, bronze are what, $2, $3? I mean,
like $1.50 or something. So
$1.50 for a number of someone that loves their family. I
love
it.
And the biggest thing with that too is like, if you jump them straight, like no matter how much you train somebody, like the real test is going to be in the actual presentation. So if you just bought an $18 or $30 lead, you only got 20 shots or 15 shots. It's going to be a lot more stressful, and you're going to have a lot more of a shot of, not having the opportunity to mess up in the same way. And so it gives you just more of that opportunity to, really be able to, again, figure out your metrics. Where do I need to improve without this? I just spent so much per lead. So you have that like sales breath, because every single presentation you're in, you're like, I have to close this. I have to close this. I have to close this. Right. So it gives you an opportunity. You're like, whatever, it was $1. I'm just move on to the next one. So I think that's, generally where we're starting with people.
Yeah. And then it's like, once they get really good on those, then we can move them to, term leads or mortgage protection or IULs or whatever the case may be, right? Because they're at that point, they're more comfortable with the conversation. They know how to get through an app. They've had the reps.
That's awesome. That's good. And so in that vein, it's going to be term and final expense or need based, but you're not jumping them to like IULs to start. You're kind of just going, what's the simplest path to getting a deposit?
We tried that, and I just think it didn't make sense, because like she said, the leads are going to be more expensive typically. Yeah. And so it's like, if they only have 30 at bats, they can blow through those quick if they don't know what they're doing. So just to get them like the basic understanding of like the call flow, the apps, all that stuff, it's good to start them with cheaper age leads and then graduate them.
But also above and beyond that, I feel like if you jump straight to IULs, because the reality is IULs are not an easy thing to get approved for. So if they're getting declined, they need to have a good idea of like, how is this insurance? Like, how can I build up value in the insurance? Maybe do a whole life or something that's still going to make sense for their situation. But if they were never able to really just sell life insurance first, they can't really do that. So there's a lot of business you can't recapture. So I like to make sure that people have like all tools in their tool belt, so to speak, before I'm jumping them into something so niched.
That's awesome. That's great. And so is there so they put down $1,000, they get 700 leads at $1.50, or they put down $500 and they get 300 leads. Like, how are you training them to get started? Is it, I know you guys are maybe we'll get to it, or we can do it now. Like, you guys are very disciplined in your schedule, and in new agents, you get on board, like, cause that's a problem, is that, I'll recruit people. I mean, we've all recruited people that are like, we've got a call with someone that makes you know, makes $500,000 a year teaching you what they do. Oh, I'm too busy. You know, what do you got going on? Oh, I just got stuff around the house I got going on. I already had plans to do stuff around the house today, so I can't get on. Like I want to just beat them or just delete and block their number forever. Like both would be. I don't think my wife would want me to get in trouble, but like it's like I want to just shake them and be like, this is your problem. This is why you're broke at 45, because you make bad decisions. And here's someone trying to help you and give you the cheat codes, but you have to do laundry. And I don't understand why that takes precedent over like what you've taken hours of my time, of my staff's time, getting licensed, getting contracted, but laundry takes precedence from learning from this. So
that came from the heart.
a lot of, dude, if you do their laundry in the middle of on Thursday calls.
Yeah.
My question though is, what do you do to get like, how are you setting, you know, blinders like a horse, I guess, you know, how are you setting the table or responsibilities for because you guys are high performing professionals, and I don't get, you know, I don't like, I've made, and a lot of that was in light, but what do you do to set the standards for your new agents as they join your agency? Because everybody doesn't get to play, right? There's only 5 on the starting lineup in basketball and 11 in football, and there's 53 sitting on the side. And I'm only going to focus on those 11. And if I'm playing basketball, I'm only focused on those 5, right? I ain't got time for you. So how do they earn a starting spot in your business?
So basically, I think the most important thing is it all starts with when you're recruiting. You have to set these expectations for people, and like, you know, our minimum expectations are you're working like at least 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. But I'm like, listen, if you want to come here, like your paycheck here is going to reflect the amount of effort that you put in. So if you're only working those hours, your paycheck's not going to be amazing, right? Like if you want your paycheck to look like mine, then you're going to have to work like I do. So like we work 12 hours a day every day, except for, you know, we don't work Sundays, but we still work Saturday too. Right. And I think like when people go through the training, we have like a week-long boot camp that they go through where they just learn like scripts, you know, rebuttals, all those things. And then when they come out of that, they're sitting right next to me and I'm working, I'm selling all day on the phones right next to them. And then if they need help, you know, Morgan can jump in, I can jump in and help them in a call. But that way they can see like what they need to be doing and they can emulate that. And if they come in here and they want to work hard, they're going to, right? If they come in here and they don't want to work hard, they're not going to get paid. And, you know, then we try to coach and help them. But to be honest, like if it goes long enough, then we just kind of have a conversation like, hey, maybe this really isn't for you. You know?
Yeah, I think, and I've heard this quote a couple of times, and it goes for pretty much everybody, but it's, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And that's where it's kind of one of those things where you're going to have a lot of people that when you explain, right, like even the lock-in we just had, everyone's super hyped, they're super inspired, like I'm so grateful, I'm so happy, right? But when it comes down to that grunt work, when you get there to where it's just day in, day out, are you going to show up or are you not? And I think that the biggest thing that I had to kind of develop, I started out in this business and I was really, really nice. I was really understanding. And at the end of the day, I only hurt them and myself because I let them go broke.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not being a good friend, leader, upline, mentor, whatever you want to call it, by allowing behaviors and seeing behaviors that I know are going to result in nothing except financial stress on them because they're not going to perform at the level that they need to make money. Yeah. So I would rather, and I always say this to my team every single time, I'm like, I'd rather be mad at me or, you know, showing up than you being upset and we're friends, but you can't pay your bills. Like which one? Because I've had both. I've had people I didn't serve properly at first where I was just too nice, too understanding because I didn't want the conflict of, you know, kind of being on people. But I think it's more of mentorship and leadership to care enough to be honest with you and to be on you, because at the end of the day, even if you're irritated with me for it, but you roll up to the office and you sell a policy that day, I know you're better off because I was hard on you. So that's where I think when you like get into that mindset of building a team, I almost don't get excited about anybody anymore because I'm like, I'm going to let someone prove like what they're able to do. Because some random people that I have no, you know, connection come in and surprise me. And they're like, dang, this person like wants to work. They want to win, and let them prove that they want to win instead of coming in, having these high expectations and then just letting them stay for too long, knowing that it's not going to be what they want because they're not having the right mentality.
And like the way we think about it too is it's like if somebody comes in and they fail and it's because like we didn't mentor them properly, that and then they go broke, like we take that very seriously. That's on us, so that's why it's like we would rather kind of fight with you a little bit to get you to develop the right habits. That way you make it, or you leave the business before you end up going broke.
Yeah. But it's also important to say that anything that we tell people do, we're also doing. We're also to the office early and leave late and do Saturdays and all the things that we say that people should be doing. Because if you're telling people to do stuff and you're like out by the pool and not doing anything, you're kind of just a dick, right? So at the end of the day,
you have big goals. You have big financial goals, right? Mm-hmm. You can come in here and sell a policy a week and make $5,000 a month, and hopefully it all sticks on the books. But if your skill set's good enough to keep them all on the books, but you have massive 6-figure monthly goals, and that's okay, and you shouldn't apologize for it. And a big part of, I think, what you just talked about in leadership is like too often, like we'll have an agent that we recruit that's, I don't want to say cool, or someone that's like just like us, right? They're maybe same age length, they're going through some similar things, but they need this to work. And we go, weaker leaders, early on leaders go, well, this could be a friend. Like I should like, oh, hey, what's up, bro? And like talking to them like a buddy, versus in the beginning, it is mentor, mentee, leadership, learner. It is strong, guarded, gated. You don't earn my time unless you do actions. And then down the road, you can be like, let them, like, because if you're too kind and coddling early on in the beginning, then they're not going to hear your words like I'll use like a parent trying to instruct them. They'll hear them like a buddy going, just giving you some side life advice. And then down the road, they perform. Like, I mean, I bet there's agents that have become friends, and there's agents that you thought were friends that now don't work here anymore. And I've had the same thing happen over and over and over again. And that you have to just pull back and go, I'm not looking for friends. I'm looking for business partners, and they need me to be strong and kick them in the butt a little bit when they're and challenge them and tell them that I'm just struggling on the phone. Well, okay, let's change your script. Let's see. Well, I'm not selling as much. Well, how many appointments you book? 4. Well, imagine what your business would if you booked 8. Like, being that tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And that's this business. This business is like, we're all independent contractors. So I don't have, Jade's in the other room going, HR is listening, but like, we don't have HR. Like, we're not cussing and abusive and rude. We're direct. The effort you're putting in is not commensurate, or does not equal the goals you have for yourself. And I love what you said is like, you're working 6 days a week, take Sunday off, of wonderful. But this isn't forever. People are listening going, well, I've got kids and I've got this going on. And my son has this. And I'm like, I did too. When I started, I had 3 children under like 6 and a wife not working because I had 3 children. No one had more excuses. And I'm not going to talk about me. I've talked about, but if you can either have your excuses or you can have the life you want, and you cannot have both. And that is a challenge that your choices to work so hard right now are building an asset, or building you an agency, or building you wealth. I'm sure your savings, you're building a home, right? Like, just wonderful things, because for a short period of time, fast forward 10, 20 years, this 3-5 years of hardcore effort is going to be like, you're going to look back and smile, right? Going through it now, you're like, here we go again. Let's get it, honey. People are watching. But now you look back and you go, look what we did. Look what we did. Wake up, hold each other, you hold hands during a Netflix show, and that like how proud you are of each other because you earned that 9:30 at night Netflix show because you put in so much effort to build the base of what you have. And I went off a micro tangent loving on Morgan and Ryan, but it's the same message to anyone that's listening now or watching or in the future, is that you can't have your excuses and have the life you want. You've got to sacrifice for a little bit, and it's not forever. It's not a prison sentence for 10 years. You're not getting locked up for 20 years and you're not going to see your family. This is you just becoming the best version of your hardworking self and building a skill set that now allows you to teach others and put them in a position where they can change their lives too, which is what you've done. I had trying to give me a list of all your top agents, and I was like, holy cow, like these are huge numbers that you guys have but that's because you paved the way. And I don't know.
I love it. And I think it's important to note, because I heard this a lot too, and it just sounded kind of miserable, but like, it's important to note, like, it can also be really fun. And that's where I have a lot of gratitude to other leaders, you know, in the industry. I can't take a lot of credit for, you know, my personal growth in the ways that I've run the business, because I just basically steal stuff from other people that I respect. Like, I emulate a lot of like what Bowen and his team does, where it's like, it becomes easier to put in that kind of effort when you just really enjoy what you're doing. And that's where lock-ins, like bonding with the team, it's like when you have the people that have the commitment and you can like model that for them, and now you all have money to do fun stuff, like that's also really fun. You know what I mean? It's like you work really hard and you can create environments where it's very fun to have, like, even in that pursuit of the life that you want. So find ways to make it fun as well. Like, don't make yourself miserable. We're not having to go in home anymore. So you can do lock-ins. Like, you can go, you know, be with other people as long as you're still staying focused. But like, you can find ways to really enjoy it as well. Like, I've created relationships where if life insurance wasn't a thing tomorrow, like I'd still have friends for life. And like, that's where you can also make it a really fun thing. You just have to find a way to be really honest with yourself about, you know, who you're being and the effort you're putting in. I can say that from experience, because I had to look at myself as to why I wasn't where I wanted to be. You know what I mean?